Z are wrong. We love you and politics of compassion
But America,
and love are right.
we are not going back.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Raise Red, Living Blue podcast. I'm your host, Jason Will. Got a special guest today. How long have we been working on this, Adam? A couple months?
2 months, 3 months.
Just trying to get our schedules together. So I know a lot of y'all that follow this podcast are big Adam Incrediberry fans, especially of late, right? I mean, going. Did you go viral?
I've had several videos over the years go viral, but yeah, the one from last month actually did pretty good.
Where were you? Were you in Montgomery?
No, I was at Government Plaza in Tuscaloosa.
Okay. I didn't know where you were because you said you were like out of town. I was like, is he in Montgomery or is he in D.C.? I was
leaving the next day going to northern Indiana.
Oh, okay.
So went and did that, came home, packed, and the next morning got up and left.
Well, I know we're going to get into a little bit of origins and background because I want to talk about, where you're from. And I mean, you're a proud Alabamian. Family's been in Bibb County for generations. Mm-hmm. But just real quick, while we're on the topic of that speech, it got picked up by the national news. So it was obviously very impactful. Did you plan on making that speech? Was it more of a whim type thing? Or were you like, I'm going to do this and really?
Well, the people who run Indivisible West Alabama, when they did the No Kings protest in June, I just went. And they asked me to speak, and I kind of spoke off the cuff. And they got in touch with me before the protest this time and asked if I would speak. And I was like, well, this time I want to make sure that it's
prepared.
Yeah. Because the first time I did it, I was kind of stumbling.
Yeah.
Trying just to come up with something right then. So this time I actually wrote it down, and I read it to my wife and son beforehand. Say, hey, how's this sound? And they both said that's damn good.
It was damn good. So impactful. I know everybody's looking forward to the next time you speak. But let's get into a little bit of your history here in Bibb County. I'm a big fan of the S-Town podcast, and you've got some like firsthand knowledge of this whole situation.
I know everybody in that podcast. They even mentioned my grandmother in one episode. I think the last episode. It's hard not to know everybody when you come from a small town.
Yeah.
You went to school with all these people. Your parents went to school with all these people. Grandparents, so on. And I actually do not live there anymore. I live down the road in my wife's hometown. But I mean, it's only 15 minutes away.
Right.
I know the main guy, like when I was 16, I wrecked my first truck, right beside John B.'s driveway. The flower shop that John B. owned was across the street from my grandmother's house.
Wow. And
I don't like to talk about that because it kind of brings up stuff, but the guy that John B. thinks murdered somebody, I've known him since he was a little kid. His uncle was one of my best friends, and when we were in high school, he would hang out with his uncle, so he would hang out with us. He was like 10, we were like 16.
Yeah.
And so I didn't believe rumors or whatever to begin with, because I've known him my entire life. And I was like, no, he's a good guy, But the funny thing, when the podcast blew up, my grandmother at the time was 90. She had no idea what a podcast was.
Right. I mean, this was back when podcasts were first starting to kind of get big.
Mm-hmm. People would go, after it blew up, people would go around to the spots, sightseeing. And they would always end up at John B.'s flower shop, which is across the street from my grandmother's house. And so people were out there and they saw her and they walked over across the street. They started talking to her and they were like, did you know John B.? And she's like, yeah, I knew him his whole life. I went to school with his mama. Small town.
That's awesome.
And they said, did you know he worked on clocks? And she said, yeah, he actually fixed one of mine one time. And she said, they started freaking out, like wanting to see this clock. And it was just funny watching her tell this story because she was so confused. She's like, they were passing around. She said, I went inside and got it and I brought it out and I handed it to them and they were passing it around. She said, they were holding it like it was this piece of treasure, and it was a clock I bought at Sears when your daddy was in high school.
She had no idea what the fascination was.
No idea.
Do you think there's still, or is there any, has it died down, or are there still people that you think are listening to this podcast and coming to town and sightseeing and tracing the steps of the podcast.
Every now and then I hear about people doing it. I'm sure the fervor has kind of run its course, but there's still, every now and then I'll see an article online about somebody who talks about it. They'll post pictures where they're at John B.'s grave or something like that, and he's actually buried in the same graveyard as my grandfather, like maybe 50 feet from him.
The thing I wondered, like the biggest mystery that I took away from the podcast is, was there any like treasure, any money, any riches?
I had no idea. That's one thing I cannot, like I said, I knew John B., but I didn't know him.
Yeah.
I knew who he was, and the guy who he hangs out with, he's passed away now too. I knew his family, but I didn't really know him. But his mom went to school, or graduated with my mom, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
So everybody knows everybody, if not directly, indirectly.
Well, this might be a little bit of a curveball, but like the S in S-Town stands for shit town. But I mean, it's really not a shit town. I mean, what makes it if it qualifies as a shit town, does that not bring us into kind of the politics of, or the economics of Alabama?
It's all perspective. It's like you think about the impact that it's had, or like how outsiders portray it. You hear shit town, you're like, well, yeah, it's Alabama, small town Alabama. But it's any other town. Look at John B. I mean, in the small shit town, you've got a world-renowned repairer of clocks.
Yeah.
You're in every town, in every city, you're going to have eccentrics. You're going to have the big wigs, the good old boys, the ones who hate where they live, but they never leave. And the ones who love where they live and will never leave.
And that's you, would you say?
Yeah. Well, as far as town, no, because
you moved.
Yeah, love made me move away, but
you love Alabama, and you're not leaving.
I'm not leaving Alabama.
Your goal is to try to fix it.
At least change the perception. All I want is for Alabama has been the stereotype for so long. It shouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
And we do it to ourselves sometimes, but other people have this stereotype, and we shoot ourselves in the foot. And all I want is for people to see the best things about Alabama when 90% of the time they see the worst things.
Well, I think it's really important, guys like you and like Jeff, that you would just assume would be diehard MAGA.
Yeah.
And to hear the words that come out of your mouths, you're like, holy shit, that's a really big thing, I think, for masculine men with strong Southern accents that are white, speaking the way that you guys speak on the issues. And you said this started for you in fourth grade, like you really started kind of paying attention to politics. What happened there?
My grandmother, not my S-Town grandmother. My S-Town grandmother was Mamaw, who was my dad's mom. Nanny was my mom's mom. I'm actually talking about Mamie, who was technically not my grandmother. She was my step-grandmother. All three of them were wonderful women in their own ways. They were all completely different, but they were all good people. But Mamie, my step-grandmother, she took me and my sister to school every day. She picked us up. That's who we stayed with, during the summertime. And she was a hardcore member of the Democratic Party.
Wow.
Like, she had been involved in politics for years. Well, she was a poll worker for years, and the last election she worked as a poll worker was 2012, Obama's second term. And then she died the next year, the day before Thanksgiving, and I was sitting on my coffee table watching the Kick Six, and we had to leave right after that happened and go to her viewing. And I remember thinking, I'm glad she wasn't around to see this. Like, if she wasn't dead, she would have been dead now if she wasn't already.
That would have given her a heart attack.
Yeah, but like, I remember going when I was a kid. I would go with her to like a little election events, like meet the candidate people.
Yeah.
And somebody would walk up and start talking to her, and she'd stop them and say, what what party are you with? And if they said anything other than Democrat, she would say, look, there's no point in talking to me. She'd end it.
Wow.
And she was always like that. And sometimes I think about her and I wonder like how she will be today with the way things are. Like, if she'll be one of those, the ones that are like, I was a hardcore Democrat for years until until they went so far left they lost me.
Right.
But Mamie was for her time very anti-racist, and so I would like to think that she would continue with that trend and still be on the left.
Yeah, I think she probably. I mean, it's reminds me of like Bill Maher. You know, Bill Maher is hard on the left, but I think in areas where he's justified in that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like every kid getting a trophy and things like that. It did swing a little too far left, which opened the door for Trump. But I was just making a Facebook post this morning. I think one of the most impactful things that Jeff said when he was on the podcast was that Trump getting elected not once but twice was a blessing for our country. And I was like, what in the hell are you talking about? You've lost me on that. But his point was that it has the pendulum has swung so far right that it's now opening the hearts and minds of Americans to policies that we never would have considered as a majority population. In terms of, like, you're seeing people go, yeah, let's tax the rich. You're seeing more people jump on that bandwagon, and who knows if we ever would have gotten there. But we're getting people that are just realizing, I think, waking up to the negatives around capitalism and the fact that capitalism, as we have instituted it and are living by it today, cannot be sustained if we don't want to go bankrupt as a nation.
Yeah.
That was pretty powerful. Was she elated when Obama got elected?
Elated. She was very elated. I remember that.
And how was that received, though, inside your family? Because is it a mix of red and blue? Is it more prominent red?
It's more prominent red, but that part of the family, there was more blue. So, in Mamie's family, it was kind of like, I'd say 80% of the people were blue. And I've got some cousins, and like I said, they're step cousins, but we're still, we're family. They were started my family when I was like 4.
Yeah.
So, we're all family. But every now and then, one of my cousins on that side will post on Facebook about how she misses Mamie. And I'll comment and say, well, you could honor her legacy by voting blue. And she's like, I love her, but I can't do that. But yeah, she loved JFK, and she loved Obama. And I remember the whole 4th grade story. That's because in 4th grade we had to do a report on like current events, and I did mine on why Bush Senior shouldn't be reelected.
Wow.
I even made my mama buy a blue poster board.
That's fascinating. I mean, at such a young age.
And people say like,
that's incredible.
Oh, don't worry. You might lean left when you're young. You'll grow out of that. And that's nothing. That's bullshit, because my views have changed over the years. I have changed my positions on some things, but they have nowhere near gone rightward. They have actually gone more left. I used to be big pro-death penalty. I'm still not anti-death penalty. It's just we mess it up so much. What's the point? There's an innocent man sitting on death row in Alabama right now. We killed an innocent man in Alabama a few years ago. All the money wasted on appeals and dragging the victims' families through the court system. Sometimes it will be cheaper just to put them away.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not against the death, but like BTK, put them to death.
Right.
But for the most part, I just don't see any point in it.
Well, yeah, I mean, they have a hard time killing these people too.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's like terrible press. That's not a good look. But we're not the only state that struggles with actually doing it.
Like for years, I mean, I'll admit, when I was younger, I had no problem with the Confederate flag. I mean, I went to a private high school. Our mascot was the Rebels. That was we had in the gym, on our uniforms. That's why you will never see me wearing my Letterman jacket.
Wow. I had a rebel flag on my car when I was 16. I just thought I didn't associate it with racism. It was heritage.
But yeah, even Exactly, because I was like, well, it's just Alabama. But then I got out of school, and it was a few years after I graduated. I stumbled across an article about segregation academies one day, and got to thinking about it. I was like, hang on, my school started the year after they were forced to integrate. Like I realized, like, shit, I went to one of those segregation academies, and so it got the ball rolling, and you just learned that while you might not consider yourself racist, there's still always work to be done. There's inherent stuff that you might not even realize you're doing with bias and just the way you think, the way you were raised, and it takes a lot of deconstruction to work through it.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of work, and you can't. I mean, I'm saying this as somebody whose ancestors fought for the Confederacy. I mean, I got one ancestor named Jefferson Davis.
Wow.
You know, I don't like symbols of hate.
Well, that was what it was for me. I mean, once I saw that it was associated with hate and the groups that were using it, it became a disgusting symbol to me.
Mm-hmm. And I'll admit, like, I used to not know. The point of life is learning and growing. Like, there's things like, oh, when I was a kid, you never heard about trans people. Well, you know what? When I was a kid, I didn't know algebra either. Yeah. You know, the point of life is living and growing, and the trans community is something I had to learn about. And my son actually helped me with that, because I was talking to him one time, and I said something about, this was probably 2019. And I said, you know, I don't really understand why they get so mad about pronouns and stuff like that. And he said, well, Dad, think about it like this. Think about, because we have a weird last name. It's easy to mispronounce. He said, think about our last name. He said, when you meet somebody, they're going to more than likely mispronounce our last name. And you correct them. And if they get it wrong again, you kind of understand, because it is. But when it's a year later and you talk to them all the time and they're still mispronouncing your name, that's a lack of respect. He says, that's all it is.
Yeah.
You know, just be respectful. It's not that hard to be a kind person.
Well, first thing just popped in my head was, you know, first of Trump mispronouncing Kamala's name, and then everybody, you know, on the right started mimicking that.
It's a lack of respect, and I understand. Like, I know people who I've known for over 20 years. I don't like them, they don't like me, and they're the ones that always mispronounce my name wrong.
Yeah.
And that's just the little things let me know, F that guy, you know. It's not that hard to just be a good person.
Well, I just had the opportunity to interview I'm not sure if he's a former professor at Alabama. I know he was a professor at Alabama. I don't know if he's still employed by the University of Alabama, but he wrote a book about his trans daughter and sued the state of Alabama and has since fled the state. Well, that was in the AL.com. I don't think he would describe it as fleeing, but he had to go to another state that was more accommodating to gender affirming care and, you know, things like that. He talked about how some of the most hurtful aspects of their journey is people describing what was happening with his daughter as like a fad. You know, or she's a young trans woman, and you know, just the fact that they don't understand, and they think that homosexuality is a fad. It's just like something cool to do. They don't understand the science and the biology behind it.
So I always ask them, so when did they decide to be straight?
Yeah.
Because if you choose to be gay, that means it's a choice. If it's a choice, I'm not gay. I've always known I'm not gay. So I know it's not a choice.
Yeah.
Like, you know, my wife said one time, sometimes men ain't shit. So of course you can't choose who you love.
Right.
But the trans community, I'll admit, to this day, there's a lot of, like, I've got a real good friend who is trans, and I don't see her that often, but when we do, I love her to death. But I told her one time, I was like, I'll be honest, there's a lot I don't understand. But just because I don't understand doesn't mean I can judge you. Like, you're just trying to live your life the same way I'm trying to live my life. And there's a lot of things about me you probably don't understand. And I don't understand how somebody can be an Auburn fan. You know?
It's hard.
Yeah, trust me. My son-in-law was an Auburn fan, and he said this year's been horrible.
Yeah. I mean, this was supposed to be the year. I mean, we won our first 3 games and then it just all fell apart. Yeah, it's really hard to be an Auburn fan, just like it is, hard to be a Democrat in red state Alabama. So it's tough. But the blue journey, like living blue, speaking out, those things are like so important. I think now more than ever. And you've said you were always outspoken, even as a child. So you've always been this way.
I've always been like this, and people didn't have a problem with it until like the last 5 years. People who've known me my whole life have now decided that I'm the enemy.
Huh? Is that because you've gotten to be an influencer?
No, because it really started before that. It was 2021. I had a TikTok account, that I would post little stupid videos on. Me and my wife, doing.
Yeah.
And
that's what I love about your content is it's.
And about a
diverse.
month after about a month after January 6th, I posted a video where I was just talking about how I look like the epitome of someone MAGA.
You do.
And so that people always come up to me and just say the things, they just expected me to agree with them. And I would never check my TikTok at that time because I had 30 followers. Later I posted it, and later that night I got on there just to play around. I said, "What the hell? Why are my notifications so many?" And I had like 32,000 followers, like in 8 hours.
Wow. Just
because of that one post, but it was before that. It was really COVID and the 2020 election is when people really did try to start saying, I know Adam's like that, but I can't be around him no more. I don't understand it.
So how many people, is it a lot of people? Do you feel like you've been shunned, you get left out of stuff, not invited to things? Or do you even notice it these days?
I don't even notice it. Sometimes I'll notice somebody's deleted me off Facebook.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. But I didn't hang out with them.
Right.
But there are people that I've known for years that I went on vacation with that have just went off the damn deep end. If I'm the same way as I have been my entire life and you drop me, that's not on me. That's on you. I'm not the one who's changed. That's what really gets me is that people have decided that people like me or people like, you've known them their entire lives. They've always been like this. Why now?
Well, I was having dinner with a MAGA buddy of mine and his wife the other night, and they don't know that I'm a Democrat. And I don't know how they would react if they found out. But he's just one of those people just assumes everybody that sits down at his dinner table is MAGA or supports Donald Trump. And he said very plainly, and I just kind of ignore it or I change the subject or I just like, oh. But he said very plainly, very sternly that this is a good and evil situation. So MAGA is good, the Democrats are pure evil. That's how deeply this goes though, which may, shine a light on why people have turned on you because they feel like, it's evil.
There's this old man that I worked with, and I love this man, Dad. We would talk all the time. He was like my mama's age, and for 10 years, we would talk once a week. Just sit there and talk. Great guy. And one day we was talking, and he started going. We'd never talked politics. It was just family stuff like that. And one day, probably 2 years ago, he got talking about how he hated the left, and I was like, "Hang on, I'm going to stop you right there." I was like, "I don't want this to devolve into a fight. I don't want this to devolve into an argument because I do like you, but I'm one of those people." He hasn't talked to me since. And I know people who can't stand gay people, can't stand the trans community, but they've got family that you would not want to know where you don't want them to know where you live.
Yeah, or
because they will come over and rob your ass in a heartbeat. But the real problem is the gay people or the trans people or those damn evil Democrats.
Yeah. but they don't have their house in order. Like they're making judgments and they're throwing stones, but they may be cheating on their wife, or they may have a bunch of illegitimate kids, or they may not be paying their child support, or it's like that's what I see is the hypocrisy of a lot of it. That's really gets us fired up.
Are the ones who use government help, but then gripe about people using government help. I know so many people like that. And I try not to, depends on who it is, I try not to call them out. Because a lot of people I got to deal with, like you talking about. That's the one thing about people say, oh, you should cut out everybody's name. You can't do that in Alabama.
No.
And all that does is create an echo chamber. If you cut out everybody that doesn't think exactly like you, you're just creating an echo chamber, whether it's blue or red. But being here where we are with 65% of the people voting red, you have to deal with people of all kinds. And sometimes it's hard to do because that person would probably slit my throat if it came down to it.
Right.
I've had family that in 2021, I went to a family reunion and there was a cousin of mine, an older guy, he was like second cousin. But he's probably 15 years older than me. I've always loved him to death. And we stood there and talked. When we left, we hugged each other. The next day or 2 days later, he posted on Facebook, he cannot wait till the Civil War started because he was going to take out as many lefties as he could. And I commented on it. I said, damn, Shane. I was like, that's me, don't you? I said, I did not realize when you was hugging me the other day, you was plotting my demise.
Did you reply? That was your post?
That's what I replied. Yeah, and he blocked me. I ain't talked to him since.
Wow.
He was a second cousin, though, so I ain't really worried about it. All my first cousins we good. Some of them don't agree with me, but they know that's how I am. They know that I've always been like that, and I'm not going to change.
Yeah.
And some first cousins believe like me, some don't. And you just got to, like I said, you have to be around people here in Alabama.
But you have been able to reach some people that you're close to, right? Or at least open their minds a little bit.
Open their minds.
They're not voting dim, but they're at least...
They're thinking more. I've had people tell me, people I know, and then people I don't. I get DMs every now and then for people saying, I've made them open their eyes and open their minds, especially just because, like we talked about, the way I sound, the way I look, where I am. You just all assume, like me or Jeff, Jeff especially with that deep ass voice.
Yeah. But it's just so powerful and so needed.
Hey, fellow Blue Dots, we would love for you to connect with us on social media. We're on Instagram and TikTok at Raised Red Living Blue. Okay, back to the episode.
They've been sold on this lie or this fantasy that one day they're going to be rich. And so they'll want these policies one day.
They know that they're going to vote for the people they know is going to cut off their feet. But they're okay with it because they've been told that they're going to, those other people over there, they're going to cut off their hands too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I ain't got no feet, but they ain't going to have no hands. So I'm going to be all right. You're still losing stuff. You're still losing shit.
Right.
I really, truly do not understand it. And some people you talk to, and there's no matter what you say, it is. And then they had the audacity to tell me that I'm the one who won't think about things. I'm like, I'm in Alabama. Like you're just, people say you're not a critical thinker. You're not a free thinker. You're in your echo chamber. I was like, I'm in Alabama. I'm in the middle of the polygon of an F5 MAGA tornado.
Yeah, you are.
I'm the one that's the free thing. When I'm surrounded by MAGA 90% of the day, and you tell me that I'm the one that's not a free thinker, like I don't think they know what words are.
Well, and they make these stupid assumptions like we don't own guns, that we vote straight party line ticket. I mean, in Alabama, you can't vote straight party line ticket. I mean, you're going to have to make some Republican votes, or you don't have to, but you probably have. I know I have.
I vote in the Republican primary. But I'm not going to this year because I found out that to make changes with the Alabama Democratic Party, you need to vote in the Democratic primary. Yeah, usually the past several years, I've voted, or several elections, I've voted in the Republican primary because you have more choices.
Yeah.
And I think the worst thing to ever happen to elections is straight party ticket voting. It allows people not to think.
Right.
I hate it. And the whole guns thing, I grew up on a Church Rock Road. Well, my grandparents got married in 1955, I think, or 54. They bought each other matching Browning 12 gauges. I've still got one.
Wow.
One of my uncles has one, and I've got the other one. I tell them all the time, I own everything you say I want to ban. You know, do there need to be changes made? Yes. Do I know the answer? Do I know what needs to happen? No, I do not. That's what I hate, is when people say, well, what's your answer then? Well, I don't know. Well, then you need to shut up. If my roof is leaking, I don't know how to fix a roof, but I know it needs to be fixed. I don't know the answer, but if I will listen to suggestions, and I might support it and I might not. But I do know changes need to be made.
Well, and they're happening all around us. I mean, Australia made some changes. Their gun violence has gone way down. I mean, there's examples all over the world of changes that we could make to better our society. But like Americans, not just Alabamians, but Americans, it just feels like, or they feel like we're the only country in the world. You know, like we're the only country in the world that was affected by COVID. We're the only country in the world that was affected by high inflation as a result of COVID. I'm like, y'all, it's a global society, a global economy. People rage against socialism, but they receive it. You know, these $2,000 checks that are maybe coming from these tariffs, maybe not. I mean, what is that?
They ain't coming.
Yeah, I mean, show me that.
Or when Kay Ivey sent out checks a few years ago.
Yeah.
You know, that little, what was it, $250? Or it wasn't much.
No.
But, and like in Alabama, when you talk about the gun thing, was it 2021? Alabama, this was the same exact I don't even know how to say that word, legislative session. The state of Alabama outlawed defunding the police. They said if you defund the police, you will lose state funding. The same exact session, they passed constitutional carry, which does away with pistol permits, which defunds the police.
Wow, what a great point.
Most of these small county budgets relied on those pistol permits, and they took that away at the same exact time they outlawed defunding the police. And they said, well, we're going to set this, I think it was $3 million aside that will be distributed to county sheriff's offices to make up for the lack of pistol permit funds. And they did the math, and they were actually going to lose, I think it was $14 million. But here's $3 million. It makes no sense. How in the same exact session you outlaw defunding the police while you actually defund the police?
Man, such a great point. And it's insane. It reminds me of how fired up MAGA is against doing anything to support Ukraine. But the research shows that a lot of those weapons, a lot of those bullets are made in red states, like that have been positively impactful on red state economies.
The same thing what you say. Well, why are we feeding the world? And then a bunch of this stuff will come from farmers here. You know, the farmers will get the subsidies to grow their stuff that went to the USAID that went overseas. So you're like, we can't be feeding the world, but you're actually messing up people here.
Yeah.
Make it make sense. And the whole budget was, what, $30 billion, and we sent more than that to Argentina.
Incredible points. I mean, like Jeff and I were talking about it in our podcast, the Mom Donnie race, like the amount that the billionaires spent trying to get him to prevent him from getting elected, like all the good that money could have done.
Man, all these people in Alabama freaking out about who's going to be mayor in New York City. So many people.
And they haven't even been in New York City.
Yeah. It's like, are you planning on visiting? Like, I mean, I think I went when I was 6. It's the last time I went. Well, He's going to have government-run grocery stores. Alabama's got government-run liquor stores.
Exactly.
You know?
They don't see the parallels. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's bad for the government to help people get food, but it's all right for them to help you get some aristocrat vodka. Make it make sense. And what does the mayor of New York, people freaking out. It's been hilariously insane to watch. People here freaking out about who's going to be mayor of New York City. Why are you worried about it here? We outlawed Sharia law years ago here in the state, and we got over 13,000 churches. I think we're good.
Yeah.
That's how it starts. What are you talking about? It's one man. He's going to institute Sharia. One guy told me online, this post is going, because it was talking about this subject, and he said, this post is going to look so stupid when your wife is wearing a burqa and your 12-year-old granddaughter is married to a 50-year-old man, and you're standing and you're kneeling with a knife or with a sword at your throat. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, burqa, have you seen the man's wife? Have you seen his wife?
Yeah.
That's who's going to implement Sharia law?
She's like a fashion designer.
Yeah.
I mean,
but then they have no problem with the government implementing Southern Baptist law. You know, they want the law. They want the government to be ran by the church, but only their church.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to the things that Jesus actually talked about, welcoming the immigrant, feeding the hungry, all that stuff, they're like, oh, no, that's not the government's job. But you want the government to be run by the church. You want the government to not run by the church, but influenced by the church. Well, if it's influenced by the church, let's make sure everybody's fed, everybody's housed, everybody's clothed, everybody has access to health care. Because the way y'all are doing it, y'all ain't doing it the Jesus I know.
That's part of it too. It's what has really been brought out in the forefront is the hypocrisy of their Christian faith or their family values. Back in the blue, like you said, taking the tax dollars away from the pistol permits. I mean, it's counterintuitive, counterproductive, counter to everything they think they stand for and believe in.
Alabama's education system. The one shining thing we had was we had a very good pre-K program. And was it 3 years ago? Kay Ivey fired the head of the pre-K, when the one who actually did all the work, the guy that's actually ranked well in our pre-K program, because the handbook for the teachers was woke. That's what they kept saying. They kept saying, well, these handbooks are woke. They're teaching the kids to be woke. It was a teacher's handbook that said that every child comes from different backgrounds, and you need to know the child's background so you can know how to work with them. It was that.
That seems pretty common sense.
And they fired the lady, and then they threw away all those handbooks. Well, it was like $1.4 million, I think, or something like that. All because the handbook for the teachers said, be kind.
Well, question there. I mean, we're going to get to in this next little segment, we're going to talk about your social media presence, but how do you stay so informed on the issues? Do you just read a lot of articles, watch a lot of news? Do you spend a lot of time reading books?
All of it. I started in high school reading the Birmingham and the Tuscaloosa News every day. And I did that every day until they finally quit making it, You're hard pressed finding a newspaper now.
Right.
When we bought our house in 2013, I bought a mailbox that had 2 different slots for 2 different newspapers.
Yeah.
And I subscribed every day. And I did that, but yeah, I read. I'm a big reader.
Well, and your content seems well produced, well thought out. I mean, you're just not turning the camera on, or are you, and just talking? Sometimes
I am. Some depends. Sometimes I just have an idea and I've got free time, so I'll do it right then. But other times I'm like, well, let me jot this down, and then I'll go back to it. And when I get time, I'll do it. It's either or.
Yeah. It's just so well done. I think that's why you have so many followers. What are you up to on TikTok now?
On TikTok, I can tell you.
And is that your biggest platform, TikTok?
It's my biggest platform, but I don't get as many views on there. 422,000.
Wow.
And Instagram is 324,000.
Holy cow. I didn't even realize Instagram was that big. So
Instagram's been in the last year. This time last year, I probably had 10,000 Instagram followers. And for some reason, people see my videos on Instagram. And I have blew up over there. I appreciate it. I like it. I have famous people who follow me. Mark Cuban follows me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I made a video talking about it, and I asked him, I said, look, my wife really wants our backyard fenced in. I know $6,000 ain't much. That's a good bit. That's a good hunt for me, but I know it ain't much for you. I didn't get it.
Well, I would like to see, like, I can't imagine if you were able to supplement your income and be able to do this full time, how bigger your impact could be.
Yeah, I've got a very good job. I'm lucky. I've been at my job November 8th, I've been there 21 years.
Wow.
I've got great benefits. I've got a good job, and it had to be something amazing for me to walk away from that.
Yeah.
Or if it shuts down.
Right.
If I lose my job, then hopefully that won't happen. But as long as my job is there, and I've put in my time, and 6 months ago I actually got the job I've been wanting for a while, the position I've been wanting for a while. So I'm going to be where I am unless something happens.
Well, I feel like your content is not woke. I wouldn't. I know a lot of people would, but I wouldn't call it like liberal or leftist. It just seems like you're calling balls and strikes. It just seems honest to me.
Yeah, I don't like to call myself a Democrat. I don't like labels, because the moment you label yourself, people start looking for a way to take that label away from you.
Yeah.
Or
use it against you.
Yeah, and that's on both sides. That's just something people do. That's why I don't call myself an ally. People's like, oh, Adam's an ally to the black community or the trans community. I'm like, you can call me that, but I'm not going to call myself that. I'm just Adam. I try to be me. But Democrats and liberals are sometimes not left enough for me. But then when you go further left, you start getting into those purity tests.
Yeah.
And so everybody pisses me off.
Yeah.
MAGA says that I'm a radical socialist, but then some actual socialists say that I'm basically a Republican. I'm just on the left. But most of what I talk about is focused on the right because of the MAGA movement. Alabama's a Republican supermajority. It basically always has been. And I know technically Alabama did not become a Republican supermajority until 2011. But whether you want to admit it or not, no matter which party is in charge, Alabama has always been run by conservatives. So Alabama was a blue state for years. Alabama has always been a conservative state. I've got some old George Wallace propaganda at my house. I found it in a dumpster. There was a bunch of old magazines in there and some old Alabama football programs. And I was like, oh, cool. And it was in a big box, and I brought it home, and I was looking through it, and there was some damn George Wallace propaganda in there. And George Wallace, in it, there was one that was talking about the Civil Rights Bill, and he was talking about those liberals in Washington, how horrible they were. That doesn't sound like a Democrat. That doesn't sound like that's a conservative.
Right.
Even though George Wallace was a Democrat. Kay Ivey used to be a Democrat. Steve Marshall, our Attorney General.
Yeah.
He was a Democrat until 2011. I sat in a Moms for Liberty event about a year and a half ago and listened to him talk about how he was fighting the fourth branch of the government, the deep state.
Also the same guy in the Alabama Solution, after you see all this evidence, goes, what did he say? I wholeheartedly disagree with this depiction of our prison system with his whole heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, God bless.
And our solution is to not fix the system, just to build a brand new fancy prison using COVID funds that won't address any of the issues.
Hey, fellow Blue Dots, don't forget you can find all of our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button, and we would love a review. Okay, now back to the episode.
Welcome back, everybody. We are talking to Adam Incrediberry, social media influencer with a massive following. I wonder, can you tell, from analytics, what pockets of the country people are subscribing or following you from? Have you ever looked at the analytics of that? Or I don't even know if there's a way to do that.
I don't know if there's a way to look at the areas. I mean, I'll get comments and stuff every now and then from people telling where they're from. I'm like, damn, like Ireland,
Yeah.
Denmark, South Africa. I guess I need to look at the analytics. I've looked at the genders and the age and everything.
I'd be fascinated to know how many followers you have from this state. That would be interesting to me. But I want to talk about your content specifically that you feel like you're the most fired up to debunk, these right-wing talking points that you just love to take the wind out of that sail or kick their feet out from under them.
In this day and age, all of them. When you're dealing with the us versus them mentality of the right, all of them. When you're dealing with the dear leader is the only one who tells the truth mentality, all of them. I mean, they just say so many, and they run in circles. It's like they're running in circles so they can avoid the point. So no matter what they say, no matter what you answer, they're going to pivot and say, well, actually this. What are you talking about? Why for years did you want the Epstein files released, and now you're saying, oh no, it's because dear leader said not to.
It's amazing. Yeah, this guy, Sid Miller, okay? So Sid Miller is a Texas Commissioner of Agriculture. He is a number one Trump fan. He thinks he's the number one Trump fan in the state of Texas. But he's got 1.1 million followers. All right. And so 9 hours ago, according to Facebook, Sid posted this. And, I've been commenting, trying to get him involved in a conversation with me. But it is a meme. And it says, "This is America. We eat meat, drink beer, own guns, and speak English. If you don't like it, leave." And this is a guy who's a proud member of his church. We speak English. If you don't like it, leave. Yeah, it reminds me of my MAGA buddy who's, if I talk to him, he's like, man, the rhetoric, y'all got to tone the rhetoric down on the left.
Yes, I get that. Y'all, your rhetoric, for years, y'all have been calling us groomers. I'm a happily married man with 2 grown kids, been in my job 21 years, Southern, grew up in the church, got the same parts as I was born with, but just because I think that my taxes should go to helping people and not bombs, I get called a pedophile groomer. While there are actual groomers in the church. I do not know one trans person who has been arrested for harming a child. I know multiple people in the church. I know a youth pastor I went to school with. He popped up on my Facebook a few. I was like, damn, is that Cody? And then I read the article, and he was 35 and got caught with a 14-year-old that he had been with for 3 years. So it started when she was 11.
Good God.
Yeah, and he was the youth pastor at some church, and I went to school. He was the guy. He was the guy that when he was in school, he was doing the "See You at the Pole" rallies and stuff like that. And ain't nothing. I'm not anti-religion. People say I hate God. So no, I'm not. I still consider myself a Christian. I grew up in the Southern Baptist Church, like I said, and I grew up hearing, learning about Jesus and how he welcomed the immigrant and fed the hungry and all this stuff. And then I grew up, and when I started saying, hey, we should do these things that Jesus talked about, I get told I hate God.
Well, that's because God or Jesus is a white American man.
Yeah.
A rich, a wealthy white American capitalist man. That's where the Christianity of today has gone. Like the biggest tithers in the church congregation are the most blessed. That's where we're at today in the Christian church community.
I have no problem with the church, like with the Christian people. I have no problem with Christianity. Like, who was it that said that? Gandhi? I have no problem with Christianity. It's a bunch of the Christians I have a problem with. I don't understand how I grew up hearing these things, and now as an adult, I get told, well, no, not like that. What are you talking about, feeding people? Not like that. I don't remember Jesus saying, it's going to be this much for the bread and the fish. I don't remember Jesus saying, well, actually, here's a bill, Lazarus, when I raised you from the dead.
Right.
And then they put words in the Bible. They put words in the Bible that, well, Jesus would never. Jesus was against abortion. What are you talking about? He never mentioned it. And if you want to get technical about it, Jesus was Jewish, and the Jewish faith says that life does not begin until first breath. The science says it doesn't. Well, we were talking about Jesus. So what you talking about? You talking about science or you talking about Jesus? Pick a lane. You can't be both. When it comes down to it, it's not up to you anyway. If you say, well, they got to answer to God for that, well, let them answer to God for their decisions.
Oh my God. That's like, I think one of my biggest soapboxes is that my whole understanding is the judgment is on him, not us. We're supposed to worry about we're supposed to be taking personal inventory of how we're living and worry about just how we are living, how we're serving, and not worry about anything else.
Yeah. And
let the chips fall where they may.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to be pro-life, be pro-life. Make sure every baby's fed. Make sure everybody's taken care of. You can't call like I said, it's a protest. You can't call yourself pro-life and not give a damn about people who are alive.
Pro-life is like the definition of socialism in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but that's a four-letter word.
One of the strongest pieces of content that I saw you put out was in Sid Miller. If you're listening, you son of a bitch. He's one of these guys too that's like $1.5 trillion to illegals, illegal healthcare. And you pulled up the bill and you had it highlighted and you're like, look at what the law says. There's nothing in here about illegals. You're actually debunking your own argument.
Well, what about New York City? That's not the federal government. Okay, a state or a city can do what they will, but that's not, we're talking about the federal government. You can't be for states' rights, and then when a state does something you don't like, be against it.
Yeah.
For years, during Biden, it was all states' rights, and now, it's the federal government that gets the final say. Pick a lane. I don't care which one you choose, just choose one.
And then understand the lane you're in. Yeah. Understand all the factors, because I don't think they do. I don't think they have a firm understanding of what the Constitution says, of what the laws actually are.
And I've said for years that, I wonder if people in Europe, the way we are here about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence, I wonder if there are people in Europe that just scream, Magna Carta. I don't understand why we put so much into this document that was not perfect to begin with, that Thomas Jefferson actually said should be rewritten every year or every 20 years or something like that. And why are we putting so much faith in these men who thought that only they should vote, who wore wigs and pantaloons, and it took 38 seconds to load one bullet, and they thought that black people were 3/5 of a person? That's who we're putting our faith in. But if you want to go by it, let's go by it. Don't say, well, that's not what the Constitution means. And then later on say, well, that is what it means. Pick a lane. Because I'm getting tired of watching this tennis match between you and yourself.
God, what a great way to describe it. What content do you see on your social that tends to rile them up the most? Like, do you get the most haterade from? What are some of the topics that really get them just fired up?
To be honest with you, I don't know. I got a notification the other day that said, "Hey Adam, your views are down 41%." Well, no shit. You know, you never know. People, every time I have a video go semi-viral or whatever, like when I say semi-viral, I mean like 100,000 views. I know everybody else has different benchmarks, but there'll always be comments on there talking about, "Where you been? I post every day." You know, I ain't left. And just TikTok just does this thing. I can always tell if I have a video do very well, I know for like the next month nobody is going to see my videos, no matter what I post, no matter what I do. And I'll have one go viral, I'll have one do well, and I'll say, okay, well that works. Let me take what I was going to do and do it in that format. And then it won't do anything for a while. Then all of a sudden that same format that hadn't been doing anything for a while, one will take off. I have no idea. If you figure it out, let me know. I don't know when people say, well, you're just on there for the clicks and the views and the money. No. If I was in there for I get a little bit of money from it, but it ain't nothing to write home about. And then TikTok can clamp you down to where you don't get nothing. Like I remember one month a few years ago, I got a couple grand because 2 or 3 of my videos did very well that month, and the next month it was like $300.
Yeah,
you know, and it doesn't matter what time I post, what the hashtags, what the content is, because I like riling people up. I like shattering the stereotype. I like holding a mirror up to people and saying, look how dumb you look, without saying that. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So if anybody out there has any advice for me, I know I'm the one with the most followers, but I still can't figure this shit out. And what drives me crazy, we talk about Instagram and TikTok. A few weeks ago, I posted one that had, I think it's up to like 7,000 views on TikTok. And it's at 2.5 million.
Good Lord.
On Instagram. You never know. I've got, I think, 10,000 followers on YouTube. And I've got videos that have more views on YouTube than they do on TikTok. With only 10,000 followers. I don't understand any of it.
That's wild. You don't have a Substack though, do you? You're not like blogging, doing any kind of article, right?
People's asked, I need to, I like writing. Well, you need to get on this app, you need to get on this app. And damn it, I got a full-time job, you know?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, and you do post every day.
I do. I make time. I make time to, okay, well, I'm getting home at this time. I need to do this then. And some of these things, I know I'm just going to show my age, but Discord, I don't understand that shit whatsoever. One of my mutuals on TikTok, pissed off bartender, he messaged me right before the government shut down and was like, we're getting a Discord up, or right before the snap went out. He said, we're getting a Discord up to raise money for, food banks and everything. I was like, well, I don't know really how to do Discord. He's like, you need to, brother. It's the future. And I tried, and I do not understand that shit whatsoever. And I felt bad because I was, joined in this food drive thing, and I just went and bought some food, and I took it to my local food bank, and I was like, okay, I did my part because I kind of felt like I was leaving them out to dry.
Right.
But I don't understand it.
Well, you've gotten death threats.
Yeah, it happens.
Has anything, can you pinpoint like what sparks that, or they just want to silence you? They're trying to intimidate you.
Yeah. And
they say shit about your wife?
Yeah, like this.
She's cheating on you or something? Your wife's having an affair with a MAGA.
Yeah. your wife's boyfriend says, hey, this guy definitely sits in the single chair in the corner of people who do not like me think about my sex life more than anybody.
Well, I think that they should learn a lesson by now because you're going to call them out.
I am, but the one the actual death threats, like I don't really worry about them because they're troll accounts, they're bot accounts, they live so far away. Like there was this one guy who messaged me all this stuff, and he actually went and found me on Facebook, and this was right after my wife's grandfather had died, and I posted a picture of me and my wife the day after his funeral. So I had to, we buried Papa JD yesterday, had to, get out and clear our head. We were at the summit eating at, what's the Chewy's.
Yeah.
He commented on it and said, well, pretty soon y'all are going to be in hell with him or something like that. It kind of freaked my wife out. And so I said, just block him. Don't worry about it.
So I think that's something that maybe people don't recognize, is that a lot of people that are very outspoken about what has transpired since 2016, and especially after January 6th, that they're highly critical of the left as well. We've talked about Bill Maher in the first segment, and I have people walk in here and they'll say, hey, your buddy Bill Maher looks like he's probably going to be a Republican soon. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I mean, that's the last thing he would be, but he wants to, just like you say, like you're not leaving Alabama, your family's been here since the 1800s. Bill Maher ain't leaving the Democratic Party or his leftist ideology. He just wants to make the party better.
When people say, oh, the Democratic Party has an 18% approval rating. Yeah, that sounds about right. F them. I'm part of them people that get disgusted with them.
Yeah.
Do you think that 18% approval rating means that those other 82% have gone to MAGA? No, it means we're disgusted with the people who are supposed to be on our side doing what we think they should be doing. I get mad at my wife sometimes. My wife gets mad at me sometimes, but that don't mean that I'm going to leave her. That don't mean, she could do a whole lot better than me, but, I'm not, I think she's going to stick around. Like, John Fetterman is the new age Joe Manchin. And, it disgusts me. Schumer, Pelosi, they both should have retired a long time ago. If you're older than Post-it notes, if you're older than the interstate system, then you should retire, leave it up to the younger folks. And don't even get me started on the Alabama Democratic Party. The best thing that ever happened to the Alabama GOP is the Alabama Democratic Party. They are too worried about their own little fistful of power and their own little fiefdom than their actual constituents. And I have friends that are members of the party that do things for the party, but I'm talking about the leaders. I'm talking about Randy Kelly and Joe Reed. Joe Reed has done great things for the state of Alabama. He's done great things for the Alabama Democratic Party back in the day. But now he is what is holding the party back. And they say if you stick around long enough, you become the villain. And Joe Reed is the epitome of that. And I know that if Joe Reed hears me say this, I doubt he will, but if he does, I know he will call me a Dixiecrat. And that is okay. You can call me whatever you want, because like I've said over and over, I do not care about labels.
Do you think, is there, because I'm trying to get around to interview as many Democratic candidates that are running in the state of Alabama as I can. And I've been, for the most part, very impressed by these people. It just seems like they're very, very talented folks. But is there any hope in the Democratic, state-run Democratic leadership that gives you hope or inspires you at all that the Democratic Party here in Alabama could be?
There are people that I know in the party that are fighting for changes within the party, because you can't really worry about the outside if the inside is all messed up. And that they say, start when it comes to elections, start local, local elections, and then build your way up. It's the same way with the party. You got to start inside.
Yeah.
And I do know people who are working towards that, who want that, and hopefully they'll succeed. But until Joe Reed steps down, it's going to be a tough battle. And I hate that because he did good things back in the day.
What is his biggest hindrance on maybe progress or reform in the Alabama Democratic Party? Like what's his end game?
As long as he stays in power, as long as he's at the head, as long as he's the one making decisions. You know, the DNC several years ago said that the Alabama State Party did not, you know, they needed new caucuses. They needed like you need a youth caucus, an LGBTQ caucus, disabled caucus, all these things, which you do. I mean, if you're supposed to be the party that represents these people, you need caucuses that include these people. And so they did that. And then at the time, Randy Kelly, who was Joe Reed's number 2, but Joe Reed's kind of like Oz. He's the kind of guy, he's the guy that's behind the curtain. But I cannot remember who was over the party before that, who was in Randy Kelly's spot. But when Randy Kelly took back over, the first thing they did was get rid of those caucuses because it diluted Joe Reed's power.
Yeah, so maybe a suppression of really talented folks in Alabama that could revolutionize the party. He's silencing any encouragement of that so that he can maintain that top dog position.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do. I mean, they just get they get addicted to power. My stepdad served as a Republican for over 3 decades in the state house, District 95, and you could tell cognitively he was starting to lose it. Energy-wise, I mean, definitely this guy'd fall asleep in a chair 5 minutes into a football game, and I'm like, you know, like you said, go have your Saban moment, like go enjoy life.
Yeah.
And he was just like, you know, wanted to feel important. I mean, that gave him so much purpose. He didn't want to let it go. And they just don't see, you know, from Biden all the way down.
Joe Reed has spent more time suing Democrats than fighting the GOP in the past 3-4 years. I mean, he sued the party over the delegates that went to the Democrat National Convention last year. I cannot remember the details, so don't ask me, but I do remember that. Because he didn't like he wanted to have more choice over who went, I think is what it was.
Who can remove him from his position? Like how?
I think he's there. He's there.
I mean, he's going to have some kind of health emergency or something.
He's there till he steps down or till he retires. And I don't ever see that happening. And like I said, I hate it because in the 80s, because when you read about the things he did back today, you're like, oh, this is good. And then you get up to today and you're like, why? Every time they try to do something that he doesn't want to do, he literally spends, you know, the state of Alabama does this too, where we pass these insane laws and then people sue the state over them, and then we go and we waste millions of dollars in taxpayer money fighting it all the way to the Supreme Court, and majority of the time we lose it.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with inside the state party, because Joe Reed will fight things that he shouldn't be fighting. He should focus his energy on other things.
And open the door for an almost shoe-in Tuberville governorship, who we don't know what the situation is with his residency, and you and I both know he's a failed senator. I mean, he couldn't even recite the
3 branches of government.
Yeah, that's the guy. And then there's not a TV interview I see him on that I'm not embarrassed for our state. And now he's on the Sharia law campaign, and all like, I don't know, people running for AG, the current AG, like everybody just jumps on the bandwagon. MAGA Mo was speaking about this, how they wanted to limit people running for office that were not born in the U.S. Like, so they wanted to take all the naturalized citizens out of it.
in the state.
I mean, we're in this information age. We've got AI. Google's got AI built in. You see Trump, the Truth Social AI, turning on Trump and start calling him out for his January 6th stuff. I mean, AI must be woke. But these conservatives...
You see people griping about Elon Musk, about Grok being woke, and so he'll fix the algorithm. He's literally telling you, we're going to make it to where it doesn't give you these answers you don't like. People's like, thank you for telling us the truth.
It's amazing. Like, I ask all these people, I was like, bring your sources. Let's have a debate. I invite them all on the podcast. They're like, oh, you wouldn't want that. Boy, I'd make you look so stupid. I would school your ass. But they can't ever bring any sources. To any right-wing influencers with big followings, do they ever debate you? Do they ever get to a point where you're like, shit, I got my ass whooped on that one point? It seems like to me all of their stuff can be easily debunked.
I don't think I've ever seen them say anything that wasn't easily debunkable, but I've seen them debunk something somebody on the left says, and that's true. Like, I've seen people on the left say some stuff that, okay, that can't be true. I've seen, right-wingers call them out on that. But as far as some of their claims about this, you can find a hole in anything. Like, I saw a video last night. I'm actually going to make a video when I get home about this during halftime, where J.D. Vance was talking about immigrants, and he said the housing prices are so high because we let 30 million immigrants. 30 million? And I looked it up, and every source I could find said somewhere between 10 and 14 million undocumented immigrants. He was saying 30 million. 14 million is a big number, but they still take that number and double it to make it seem even worse.
Because we flooded the country with 30 million illegal immigrants who were taking houses that ought by right go to American citizens. And at the same time, we weren't building enough new houses to begin with, even for the population that we had.
And I was furious with Kamala Harris and her border czar position. It could have been, Biden could have done everything Trump did to close the border. And in fact, he did before he left office. So he really started hammering down on the border. I wonder why they leave themselves open like that. Like, doesn't that seem like common sense? Like, if this is so important to the American public, why do we do it? But then we also turn a blind eye as to why it's happening. Because if there weren't jobs, so many jobs that Americans weren't willing or wanted to do, these people, they're coming over here and they're finding work. And they're being employed. And they're paying taxes.
And but they're also collecting welfare, and they're also getting free housing. They're also getting 30-year mortgages, and they're also getting free health care, but they're also taking the jobs, but they're also doing it. They are the boogeyman right now. No matter what it is. When I walked out of here, I opened up the door too fast and stubbed my toe. It's some damn undocumented immigrants.
Well, and I love that you pointed out in the legislation, you're like, listen, if you just look at the bill, the way it's written, it proves that the illegals aren't getting free health care. And then I saw this one lady on TikTok, she was like, we're going to let the illegals have free health care, but we're not going to have free health care?
Yeah, that's what I don't get. Like, you think that the Democrats are fighting for undocumented immigrants to have free health care when we can't even get cheaper health care?
It doesn't make sense.
You think? It doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense, though, if you don't think about it. And that's what MAGA does. They don't think about it. They're like, okay, what do I need to believe? Tell me what I need to believe. All right, I believe it. And whatever Dear Leader says, whatever J.D. Vance says, whatever Stephen Miller says, whatever Fox News or OAN or Tommy Tuberville or any of them, they will tell me that I am not a free thinker as they repeat every single right-wing talking point. You can see it all over TikTok and all over Instagram. There will be video after video of MAGA people looking at the camera while some music plays, while Red Kingdom or something like that, and it will all have the same exact words on the screen. When they see a talking point, they grab onto it like they're catching a pop fly in the World Series.
Yeah. And it's for like verbatim. They're repeating it word for word. It's scary, but I mean, it's powerful. I always say like the Democrats should take a few more pages out of the Republican playbook, because what they do wins. They have a really good track record of getting on the same page with their messaging, and just like from the top, from the White House all the way down to, the MAGA in the Waffle House, they're all speaking the same language. Mm-hmm. And that's powerful.
What they do works, and that's what's scary.
Well, I've been so frustrated and so let down. Like I really had to stop watching cable news, because it just seemed like they were setting this thing up, like painting this picture that MAGA was doomed. Like they're going to impeach Trump, then he's going to go to jail for all the insurrection and all his election interference. And then they're saying like he had documents that were so classified at Mar-a-Lago. Like there's no way, if he hadn't won, that he wasn't going to jail for at least one of these things, if not several of these things. But you go to the debate that he had with Kamala Harris, and I heard this, I don't know how true it is, but that Laura Loomer put a bug in Trump's ear before he took the stage about them eating dogs and cats in Springfield, Ohio, was it? And he ended up just hammering that during the debate.
Who knew that they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats was a better talking point than we're going to help first-time home buyers with $25,000 to buy their first house.
It blows my mind.
And now we went from we're going to give people $25,000, we're going to help first-time home buyers, to now we're going to give you a 50-year mortgage. Which I don't know how you feel about that, since that's your business. But
yeah, we did some content on it the other day. The kind of like the pros and cons, like trying to look at it from both sides of the fence. But the messaging coming out of the White House is this is a game changer for Americans. Well, first of all, my wife's in the mortgage business. I'm in the real estate business. And we did the math, and it was like $200, the $200 in savings. Now that could be a game changer for somebody. But basically, if you look at it, you're a renter, and the bank becomes your landlord. But he's not doing anything to address. Let's look at all these things that are disqualifying. Like if a guy sits up there and rants about dogs and cats, and that has been debunked by the governor of that state who is a Republican, by the mayor of that city who is a Republican, by the sheriff of that county who is a Republican, it should be disqualifying. It's like, why are you supporting? When he gets his ass kicked on the debate stage, he says, I'm not debating her anymore because she's unfair. Or the commentators fact check me.
Yeah, and I understood, and I'll admit, I thought J.D. Vance did better than Tim Walz.
J.D. Vance is a rock star.
But when you have a Yale-educated lawyer versus a high school teacher, I love Tim Walz. I would love to hang out with Tim Walz. I think he's cool. I think he's cool as shit. But I understood why.
Yeah, he was nervous. It took him a while to get rolling. He found his footing towards the end. Yeah. But he was noticeably nervous. But Tim Walz is so wholesome. Like I remember, like after they lost the election, I just continued to follow him on social, and he's just so down to earth. He was like going to the movies with his wife, and they have such a beautiful relationship. And you're just like, man, we could have had this, y'all. We could have had this in the White House. Where would we be? But what are some other things that like just stood out that you're like, you guys.
I loved when MAGA will say, what about Kamala's word salad? Bitch, have you heard Trump talk? What are you talking about? Are you saying that Trump is a William Faulkner? When he talks about the magnets and the electric boats and the sharks and if an electric boat sinks, do you get electrocuted?
Yeah. The windmill bullshit. We wanted us to drink bleach to cure COVID. He says some dumbass shit. You know, he can stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and not lose a single vote.
That's true.
You know?
I mean, that's one of the true things you said.
Yeah. But you thought, like, at some point, America was going to wake up. And then when I saw just the magnitude of January 6th, I was like, this has got to be it. And then you saw Mitch McConnell coming out and speaking out against him, against denouncing it. You saw so many people. Lindsey Graham, they really downplay how much they spoke out against it now. But you're like, this has got to be it.
And I don't understand the ones like Ted Cruz. Like Trump insulted the hell out of Ted Cruz's wife. And now still Ted Cruz is like,
how is he even still married? What I mean, I know my wife would be like, pack your shit.
Yeah. There's a lot of things you can. I've told people that. I've told trolls. I've told people this online. Like, you can say whatever you want to about me. You can call me whatever. I don't care. You leave my wife and children out of it. That's when I have a problem with it. But Ted Cruz is like, please, sir, may I have another?
Well, I did create a graphic the other day of J.D. Vance, Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio, and I just threw in recent Jeffrey Epstein quote about, he said Trump was a clown, but Trump is like the worst person he ever met. I mean, if Jeffrey Epstein says that about you, but I had somebody comment on that, had several people comment on the post saying fake. None of those people ever said that. I was like, it's live on, like, you can pull the tape.
Yeah.
But then they'll say, oh, well, they didn't really know Trump. And once they got to know him, or people change their minds all the time. And I'm like, God, but if you, like, Lindsey Graham called him a xenophobic bigot, Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance,
What I hate is that what Trump has done to this country, you can look at what he did to the USFL. He put an entire pro football league out of business where he came out unscathed. All these people lost everything, lost their jobs, lost their livelihoods, but he came out unscathed, so he declares it a victory. And if you watch the documentary about the USFL, I prefer the documentary because the book came out after Trump was president. So because I was talking about this one time, somebody said, well, that book was against Trump just because, but the documentary was like 10 years before he became president, or 8 years, I can't remember. But where I'm the only one who can fix this, listen to me, I'm the only one. And then he turned people against each other, and you're either with me or you're against me. It was the same exact thing he's doing to the entire country right now. And they just don't see it.
Do you think because I feel like MAGA's losing some footing, but it seems like the posturing of the right is like I don't want to say he's changed it forever, but it seems like they're pretty well dug in on the division, the hate, the demonization, because we can't wait we would much rather abort a baby after it's born than when it's in the womb. We would much rather give illegals free health care than us get cheaper health care or more affordable health care.
Yeah, you gotta donate crayons and paper towels to your teacher, but don't worry, your teacher's gonna trans your kid during recess.
Well, I had a Marine on the podcast who is a civilian now, but he was raised in I don't even know if he might be the only Democrat in his whole family. But what happened with him was, when he got like in the service and started serving with people of different ethnicities and different backgrounds, he grew up here and these people are evil. I always heard when I was a kid, every time there was an earthquake in California, it was because those damn liberals out there. Those damn Dems, like you say, it's God's wrath on them because they're such pagans. But, he looked at people like Obama and they said, all right, Obama is going to destroy the nation. Like he's going to leave office and America will be in ruins. he was like, after that shit didn't happen, the more Democrats I met, I was like, man, these are good people. These are just open-minded people. And the more these radicals didn't destroy the country after they were elected, the more he's like, are y'all full of shit? I mean, like, none of this stuff y'all are saying is going to happen is happening. And all the stuff you're fighting for is not doing anything to improve the records of red states.
Yeah.
But he's convinced, or I don't know what, I haven't talked to him in a while, but he was one of those ones where like, we're going full authoritarian. He's like, I don't think America's never going to come back to what it was. And my argument has been, is that he is going to fuck up so much that he's just going to force everybody into the middle, or more people into the middle. And I mean, because you see it this week, or we've seen it the last several weeks, or even months, of Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has said some of the most batshit stuff you could ever hear come out of a human's mouth.
Ben Shapiro said that Marjorie Taylor Greene hates Trump and wants to destroy his legacy. I saw that video yesterday where Ben Shapiro said that. I'm like, do you know who you're talking about?
Yeah, as soon as they turn on him, it's like,
they will, as soon as you don't, that's how you end up with a Cheney being called a liberal. That's how you end up with a Cheney voting for the Democrat politician. Because if you're not with them 100%, then you're the enemy.
Adam Kinzinger served the country in the military.
Yeah, he comments on he follows me on Instagram. He comments on my stuff all the time.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, way more. Does he work? Because he
I don't
comments
know
on
if he
everything.
does. I don't know if he does. I think he's just, I'd love to know what he's doing right now. I think he's just really like a commentator, an analyst or something for CNN. But I know he would probably still like to be in office. I know Liz Cheney would still like to be in office. They've sacrificed a lot. I mean, I always go back to even like Dr. Fauci. I mean, you want to talk about this guy's life.
I feel so bad for him.
His quality of life is awful. It's affected his family. The guy goes on 60 Minutes and is in tears about, all he wanted to do was the right thing. And that's why I go back to these people just thinking, that America is on this island. Like we're just different from the rest of the world. And sitting around a campfire with a bunch of my redneck buddies drinking bourbon, and they're talking about COVID's a hoax. And then one of the motherfuckers dies because he doesn't get the shot. And then we're going, whoa, wait a minute. And I'm going, are y'all not watching the news? Like in Italy, where they've got all these people in like stacked white body bags that they're putting in like refrigerated tractor trailer trucks.
Or it was the Democrats that made your grandmother die alone. Like, that was in who was president? And then here, there's no way in hell you can blame a Democrat in Alabama. Because there are none in power. I mean, there are very few. Very few. But somehow it's always the last fault. No matter what it is. They won't look in a mirror. It pisses me off so bad. In Alabama, the biggest misinformation, the biggest thing is the woke. We are at war with the woke. We must defeat wokeness. Like, that is the conservative politicians' only stance in Alabama. They don't, and it works, and it's sad that thanks to what am I trying to say? Take the political commercials in Alabama during election seasons. They are hilarious because you're like, is this SNL? Is this satire?
Yeah.
Is this true? Like Kay Ivey, during her last election, during her last time running, she said, she had that commercial that said, My mom always told me if you didn't have anything nice to say about somebody, then you didn't need to say anything at all. So this is what I got to say about Joe Biden. And then she sat there for the rest of the commercial silent. It was hilarious.
Growing up, my mom and dad told us, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. Well, here's what I have to say about Joe Biden. Poor Joe. Bless his heart.
It was hilarious. But also, what the fuck? Like, what does that have to do with the citizens of Alabama? Are you running against Joe Biden? Or Katie Britt sitting on the tailgate of a truck in a plaid shirt, in a flannel shirt, going, this is what the liberals hate. Like, ma'am, that's my childhood. I've got pictures of me doing that. And or that one lady back during 2022, she was running for state Supreme Court, little bitty redheaded lady. And the commercial was her shooting a gun, and it said, Judge, whatever her name was, once gave a child predator 1,000 years in jail. And why only 1,000 years? And she stopped shooting, and she turned around and looked at the camera, she said, because the liberals wouldn't let me put him under the jail. What? What the... You wanted to kill him and the liberals wouldn't let you kill him? I don't understand any of that, but also they never focus on things to help Alabama. The only issue at hand is defeating the woke. And so they use these wedge issues to hammer home and never even think about actually helping the citizens of Alabama. And then they win, and nothing gets better for the citizens of Alabama, yet the ones who voted for them think they do because they defeated the woke. Well, yeah, you know, our maternal mortality rate and our infant mortality rate are still horrible as hell, but it's okay because we outlawed DEI. Yeah, a third of counties in Alabama don't have a pediatrician, and a quarter of our children live with food insecurity, but it's all right because we ain't got to worry about no man being in the Target bathroom with your daughter. They do nothing to help the people, yet they think that everything is okay because they defeated the woke. And that's what drives me crazy. Because conservatives have been in power for so long. Like I said, I know Republican supermajorities of 2011, but conservatives have always been in power in Alabama. Nothing has gotten better. But yet they think, oh, we're free because we defeated the woke. I just want people to quit putting party over people. Quit buying into the bullshit that every person that isn't conservative wants to make abortion mandatory and trans an elective in elementary school. And to be fair, that goes to both sides. That goes both sides because I know people. If I ran for election right now, if I'm not planning on it, I'm not going to, but if I ran for election right now, I wouldn't have a chance. All the people who know me, who know my family, who know what kind of person I am, would march into the voting booth and check that straight Republican ticket and be glad they're taking down the woke. And a few years ago, the town I live in now, there's like 2,500 people in the town. And a few years ago, during the mayor and council elections, you know, you see the election signs and there's no party on them. There's no party on the ballot. It's just names. One guy had his nickname on the ballot in parentheses or in quotation marks. You know, you see the signs in people's yards and you know who they are, you know their kids' names, you know where they, you know where they work, where they go to church and everything. Politics shouldn't matter or something like that. You know, the small town election, and before the election, this one guy I know, his daughter played softball with my daughter. He made a post on the town Facebook page saying, I want to know every single candidate's positions on the following. And it was like abortion, standing or kneeling for the anthem, defunding the police. Like, what the hell are you talking about? We have 4 police officers. What does any of that have to do with the small town politics? Like, none of that. That's how bad it has gotten, is that this tiny town of 2,500 people, they're worried about all these issues that don't affect them at all.
Well, so Trump, in that debate with Kamala, said he had concepts of a plan. I mean, they don't even, all they have to do from the national level all the way down to state and local is do exactly what you're saying. Speak out against liberals, speak out against wokeness, and they don't even have to have a policy position.
And, well, the ACA is so bad. What's the plan then? What's the plan to fix it? What's the plan if you're going to replace it? What's the plan to replace it? Tell me what your plan is. I might support it, I might not, but I need to know what it is, not just it's bad. Not just, or I love the people who say, if you need subsidies, then it doesn't work. Cool. Take all the subsidies from the corporations in. Take all, Elon Musk gets how many? Jeff Bezos gets how many? Walmart, they get all these subsidies, but when it's subsidies, how in the actual fuck can you be against subsidies that actually help people, but be perfectly fine with subsidies that help corporations? How are you against this little bitty amount of tax money that goes to safety nets, but be perfectly fine with the way more, the 10 times, 20 times more tax money that goes to corporate subsidies? I do not understand it. I don't understand people simping for billionaires. And I don't understand why people will say, well, Jeff Bezos paid this much in taxes last year. He paid $40 gazillion, whatever the hell it was. That was still only like 4.5%.
Yeah.
I pay a higher tax rate.
Nothing was impacting his ability to host a $50 million wedding in Italy.
Yeah, everybody in this country, more people in this country are closer to the poverty level than the billionaire. But for some reason, they have convinced us that the trickle down is coming. When the trickle down ain't nothing but the trickle down is getting pissed on. People will say, well, we got to help the American people. All right, well, let's help the American people. Not like that. That's socialism. Then what do you want? Tell me what you want, because I'm sorry that I think that if the government's there, it should help people. I'm sorry if I think that my taxes should go to helping people instead of bombs.